news.
While your day is winding down, they're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Welcome to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow. Chris has the night off. Can't make a McCarthy work on St. Patrick's Day, so it'll just be me this evening. But first, we're joined by Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux. Hey, Sheriff.
Hey, Marcus. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining me. So there's a story on WBSM.com that people can check out. You wrote a letter to the state lawmakers asking them for something to help you along with your plan to close the Ash Street jail. What is that?
Yeah, so the first thing we need to do is a feasibility study. I have an idea, and I want to explore whether or not it's a good idea. You know, it seems like it's a good idea in my mind, but I'm not an architect or an engineer. And so
I think all my ideas are good ideas, too.
Yeah, I think as most people think that way. But
right.
But as an administrator, though, you know, I have to make sure that my ideas are vetted before we start spending money on them.
Of course.
And so the feasibility study would request, $300,000 to look at whether or not my idea to close Ash Street and move the operations over to Dartmouth, which could cost several $1 million, is feasible. So the project, like the feasibility study, is just the first step. And what it does is it says, okay, if, you know, the idea that Paul has, is it a good idea? Maybe, maybe not. But here is what is a good idea. So it's a starting place. So we might walk away with a different proposal on what we want to do, but this is just where we're starting, though.
So what is a feasibility study, and who does it?
So a feasibility study looks at how much is a project going to cost, what's the best way to do it, and, you know, like, where should we do it? You know, so it looks at those general issues, you know, what's the best way to accomplish what we want to do, closing Ash Street? Where's the best place to do it? And then how much is it going to cost? So it's those three things. And who does it? Sometimes it can be done internally at DCAM. You know, they can use their own architects and engineers. Other times they might hire outside architects or engineers. Okay. But basically, it's a study that tells us what the right thing to do is, because we don't want to just say, okay, this is what we should do, and then just do it in a vacuum. We want to make sure that the idea has been fully explored by other people who have considered a lot more kind of nuanced questions than we are going to consider. DCAM, now that's the Department of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, as far as basically it's actually division of, but it's
sure.
What you just said, it's the same thing. But yeah, what you just said is correct, though.
Okay. So we're speaking with Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux, talking about a letter he sent to state lawmakers. Now, the letter that is on file on the story at WBSM.com, that's a letter to Senator Mike Roderick, who's chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. Did you just send him the letter, or did you send it to everybody else in the delegation?
No, we've sent it to pretty much everybody else. It was something that I want to get wide support with. And, you know, if we're able to do this, if we're able to close Ash Street, we would be transforming our operation in a good way. You know, we have 200,000 square feet that we're maintaining right now. We can probably house these 100 inmates in a lot smaller space, maybe 20,000 square feet. So it's a lot less maintenance we have to deal with. We would be able to increase programming for the inmates, and because there's a lot more programming hours available at Dartmouth than there is at Ash Street. And we could also have all the correctional officers on one campus, so if there is a security incident, it's a lot safer for everyone. So there's really like a lot of different reasons why we should do this. And, there's no one reason that's driving it. It's a whole bunch of different things. And as you know, you cover the campaign. I didn't campaign on this. I didn't want to campaign on closing Ash Street because I didn't know all of the nuances that were involved in closing it. And, in the first couple of weeks I looked at this and I said, well, this is achievable. And so now we're working on it.
So we're speaking with Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux. Any idea? I know there's been some early broad support for the idea of closing Ash Street. I heard Rep. Hendricks and Rep. Doherty talk at the Dartmouth jail to the media. But has there been any other conversations after that?
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to do my emails all day. I'll probably do them after I get off the phone with you. But we emailed all the state delegation, and I have to look to see if anybody else responded. But Carol Doherty responded, and I know Chris Markey also responded. Rep. Hendricks also was, on board. So the state legislature, they have the power of the purse. Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is get them to successfully put $300,000 in the budget to set aside specifically for this purpose. It would basically be an earmark, and that money would need to get over to the DCAM budget. And there's different ways that can be done. So which way doesn't really matter to me. But that's kind of what the state delegation would work on. Once they fund this study, we do the study, and that then kind of gives us a general roadmap of the next steps. Okay, so, hey, Paul, your idea to do it over here isn't a great one, but, the study found that this is the better way to do it. Okay, that's fine. I came up with one way. It might not be the best way, and I'm okay with that, but the important thing is that we just get something done.
So, like you said, I did cover the campaign, and you were reluctant to move towards closing Ash Street, but now it seems like something I venture to say you're enthusiastic about. You think is it fair to say that you think it's a necessary step forward to modernizing corrections in Bristol County?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to start this at an early stage. I'm only 2.5 months on the job. But the reason I need to start early is because it's going to take years to achieve this. It's not going to be done next year or the year after. This is probably a 3, 4, 5 year project, probably closer to 4 or 5 years away.
Just in time for your reelection campaign.
Yeah, well, that's, I wouldn't be timing it just in time for that. That wouldn't be the idea. Oh, look, he just closed it. Now he's running for reelection a couple months later. No, It's going to take that long anyway. If I could do it sooner, that would be great. But again, like I said earlier, we can offer, I think what Jonathan Darling, public relations officer, said is, I think it was about 44 hours of program availability each day in Dartmouth versus something like 14 hours per week in Ash. So the availability of programming for inmates to help reduce reoffending is much greater in Dartmouth. That's number one. Number two is we would be able to consolidate all of the security officers on one campus, which improves safety because then you have a lot more officers that can help respond to an incident. And then you also have the cost savings of not maintaining 200,000 square feet of building, whereas if we were to do it where my idea would be the GC, the modular, not modular, the gymnasium, it's called GC, that's the number of it. That if we were to do that, that's only maintaining about 9,000 square feet unless we put a second mezzanine in there, not a second mezzanine, a second floor, but a mezzanine. Then it would be more along the lines of probably 15,000 square feet. That's a lot cheaper for us than doing 200,000 square feet.
We're speaking with Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux about his letter to the state lawmaker delegation here in the South Coast and in Bristol County, asking them to fund a feasibility study to hopefully close the Ash Street jail. So you've been in the state legislature. You're a state rep for some time. So you have some experience with this. You had estimated a cost just based on your time on the bonding committee, and you said that was around $10 million. Is that correct?
Almost. If we were to retrofit the ICE detention center, I estimate the ICE detention center would be closer to $10 million. But if we do, it might be a little bit more than that. But if we do the gymnasium, that would probably be close to like $6 to $8 million.
Okay.
And there might even be cheaper ways to do it as well. In fact, DCAM was at the jail today. Chris Horta, the maintenance director, he invited them here. We gave them a tour around. We showed them numerous things that we had in mind, big ticket items, stuff that involves improving morale, decreasing suicide, saving. It's just a whole bunch of different things. We spent the entire morning with them, and they were really generous with their time. So, yeah, that's something that that estimate is actually more based on my time as mayor, looking at capital projects we were doing in Attleboro. But I mean, I've got a little 5 years of experience in the State House. 4 of those 5 years were on the bond committee where we did big projects like this. We funded them.
So just based on your experience as a state legislator, is this $300,000 for a feasibility study? Is this a heavy lift for any member of the state delegation?
No, this is actually, if you have the state delegation working together on this, this is a real easy, achievable project just to get the feasibility study. And that's the first step. I mean, if we don't have the feasibility study, this isn't going anywhere. And there are, this is the first thing we have to do. And about $300,000 out of a $50 billion budget, I mean, this is a really small drop in the bucket compared to a lot of the other things that the state has to take care of.
And this is something they could procure in this budget session. They finalized the budget around July 1st. So this is something they could procure by summertime.
It possibly, or could be before it or after it, because there are supplemental budgets that are passed throughout the year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the state delegation has in mind. I'll leave that to them to figure out what the best time to do it. I'm just really glad that they're taking an interest in this, because we can improve operations, save money, make things safer, but I just can't do it alone. I need their help to do it. Without them, it's not going to get done.
Of course. So you talked about DCAM, again, for people who may just be tuning in or forgot the acronym that we spelled out. It's the State Department. It's the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. So you said that they were looking at some stuff at your at the jails today. What exactly were they taking a look at? Because last time you were here, we did talk about suicide prevention and the how the infrastructure of the jail needs to be improved to prevent more inmate suicides.
Well, one of the things we showed them were the windows. The windows have bars that are vertical, but then when the vertical bar hits the windowsill, that's a point where you could wrap something around it and basically hang yourself just by sitting down and letting yourself pass out. And this has happened before numerous times, not necessarily with the window, but with other areas within the cells. And so we have to get rid of these risk factors. And one of them is if we were to try and put some type of plexiglass over the windows where the bars are, that would eliminate the risk of using that. But there's a problem with that. Those housing units don't have air conditioning, or they don't have any real ventilation. And you might say to yourself, well, why do we care if inmates have air conditioning? Well, there's a couple of reasons, and it's if we, really hot, stressful conditions can be dangerous, not just for the inmates, but for the correctional officers who work there. So increasing, putting in a proper HVAC system in these housing units, that's a big capital project. But then what that does is it helps us make it so that we can, put these plexiglass panes over the windows, which the windows, and I didn't mention this, the windows can currently be cracked open to allow for some circulation. So this is an issue that if we were able to get, indeed we need DCAM to do this to help with HVAC, but if we can do that, we can decrease the risk of suicide, we can improve the work conditions for the correctional officers and make the work conditions for correctional officers safer, as well as making it safer for inmates as well, because sometimes inmates lash out at each other, not necessarily always a correctional officer. So that's one project. And by doing that, though, you're also improving the work conditions for correctional officers. And if the work conditions are better for them, then it's going to be one more thing to help us try and retain them when they're there, because it's a really tough job. There's no question about that.
We're speaking with Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux. I know I talked to you a little bit about this last time, but it's worth talking about again. We were discussing how you've gone through sort of a reorganization to create a position for a director of inmate services. What kind of organizational changes have you made thus far, and have you hired that person yet?
So now that I've looked at the old org chart and where all the different people were reporting and where they were residing under the old org chart. Now what I'm in the process of doing is meeting with all of the different staff to find out what we are going to keep the same, what we're going to improve, what we're going to reform. And so that, there's a lot of services going on right now, but there was really no strategic plan to bring the inmates in and start their discharge planning at time of admission. It was kind of erratic. It was haphazard. There was, like I said, there's no strategic plan to really address everybody. So that's something I'm working on right now, finding out what everybody is actually doing, and then having them report to one person. Because right now, a lot of this reports to Steve Souza, the superintendent, and he's got a lot on his plate, probably too much. I've worked in a couple of the systems before where all of these services were not under the superintendent. They were under like a different head, like a different director. And it just, if you spread yourself too thin, things are going to suffer. And that's what I want to avoid. I want to have one person really dedicated to inmate services, where they're focused on medical, food, discharge planning, which is housing, healthcare, and a job when they're released, inmate programs. So the director would then have a number of deputy directors, and then the deputy directors would have different coordinators to help out with things under them. So it would be a multi-tiered approach, but then it would have something where everybody is working towards a shared goal, and that's what I'd like to do. Because right now, like I said, it's just kind of, hey, we get a grant, let's implement the grant. Good. Now, how many people can show up? I don't know. We'll just see who we can put in the program, and whoever wants to sign up for it can sign up. There's really no sense of completion. Like, what's the outcome we're trying to achieve? It's just, we'll just kind of house people along, and then they can hop into a program, and that'll be good. Maybe it's good. We don't even measure the programs to see if they work. So I think we can just do a lot better.
There's no specific goals that are delineated in this process, basically, is what you're saying, right? So
part of it is reducing reoffending, and that we have to measure that in a meaningful way for our institution. But that's part of the goals. It's setting people up for success. It's being able to say, hey, look, this is what we're doing with every inmate. And right now it's just a little bit too scattered. I don't know how to put it other than saying there's really no plan. It's just kind of like, hey, just show up at a program or not show up. We can do better. I mean, there's a little bit of, there's a lot of good people who work there who are trying to do a good job, but there's no cohesive approach to the care of an inmate.
Seems like seems like there's been some shakeup there in terms of the organization of the Bristol County Sheriff's Office. That's to be expected, obviously, when there's a changeover after a quarter century. But how are the employees responding to this reorganization effort?
The things I'm hearing are positive. And I hope people understand that. Kind of giving me the good doesn't really help me. I mean, it does a little bit, because then I say, okay, keep going in this direction. Yeah. But what really does help a lot, more than being praised, is actually getting the feedback. And I'm not talking about just criticism for the sake of criticism. I'm talking about constructive, like, hey, we could do this a little bit differently and a little bit better. That's where I'm going to improve the system. It's with the input from people who are doing the jobs, and they say, okay, a lot of these ideas, I get emails from staff on a regular basis with new ideas. Some of them I'm able to address right away. Some of them I'm setting aside, but I created a little folder in my inbox where all of these ideas I'm going to address over the course of time. But every one of them I'm considering, and maybe not actively right now, but I will be looking at all of them in the future. Just kind of a lot going on right now. So,
of course,
but yeah, there's a lot of folks who have good ideas, though.
Well, you said during the campaign, because you're talking about the recidivism and all that, which for people who don't know is basically the rate in which people reoffend once they're out of prison and end up back in prison or jail in this circumstance. You said it's when you became sheriff that it would be very easy to start measuring recidivism, that you did it when you were in the Philadelphia jails. Have you started doing that?
Yes. We have. There's nothing I can report on right now. What it is I have to get the data first. The data to measure our reoffending has to be organized in a way on an Excel spreadsheet. We have to extract it from our computer system. So I've had several meetings about that, and we're moving along, like step by step with this. But basically, my first one was with someone named Deirdre. I said, okay, this is what we'd like to do. She then brought in somebody else, said, okay, this is where we want to go with this. And so what we're doing is, for me to do it, which is it's possible, it's going to happen. I just have to get the data, but the data, it can't be on paper, can't be loose leaf files. We have to also define things and know what we're defining, so that way you can draw only certain conclusions based on what we've presented. So what I have to do is look at what we have and then say, okay, this is what we've measured, and these are the implications of it. But you can't draw anything beyond what we're saying right here because the data doesn't allow for that. But so right now we're in that kind of that phase where we are kind of figuring out exactly what it takes time. Just like when I was in Philadelphia, it took months to do the study in Philadelphia, and people can still look it up just by going to my website, paulheroux.org /Philadelphia recidivism, and the report that I did, probably 14, 15 years ago. I'm going to replicate that here, and it's something that it took a long time in Philadelphia as well, and it'll take because there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just saying, okay, well, here it is. If it was that easy, it would have already been done. But there's a lot to reporting on data that's in its rawest form on it, which is coming to me on an Excel spreadsheet, which is going to be thousands of rows of information and possibly dozens of columns. So there's a lot to it.
Speaking with Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux, I appreciate you joining me this evening. Is there anything that we didn't cover, anything that you want to leave the audience with before I let you go?
And I think of, but thanks for having me back on, Marcus.
Anytime. Talk to you later.
Take care. Bye.
That was Bristol County Sheriff Paul Heroux talking about the correspondence he sent to the state lawmakers asking for money for a feasibility study to close the Ash Street Jail. Really interesting conversation, I think it's been thus far. And it started here on South Coast Tonight when he broke that news. So 508-996-0500 is how you can get in the program. You know what? I see a call on the line. Before I take a break, let's go to it. Good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Listen, I like Paul. Paul, he a great guy. He's done he's worked very hard to get where he is.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the biggest things is reintegration.
Meaning?
Reintegration with the prisoners and getting them back out there to not reoffend.
Right.
So, he wants to close the Ash Street Jail. Well, why not use the Ash Street Jail as a reintegration center for the lower-level prisoners who are getting out within a couple of months, and just let them, work with staff members over there.
I guess
I'll tell you what, it's very hard, and I'm gonna throw it out there because I've been incarcerated.
Sure.
So I know how reintegration works.
Well,
I think reintegration would be a very good thing for that particular jail because, number one, it's a historical building.
Sure.
Number two, it could be utilized.
Well,
it could be utilized to help, the people of New Bedford, to help, the community get back. And, these people who, they offend. I get it. But, why not educate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like just from I don't know if reintegration has a specific definition that maybe I'm not aware of. It feels like that's one of the policy goals that he's trying to achieve when he talks about housing, healthcare, and a job. That feels like if someone's got those things, that feels like they've been fully reintegrated into society. As far as using Ash Street for a way of it reintegrating inmates, again, might be a process I'm not familiar with. You might be more familiar with than I am. But it would just be a matter of, how many people in Ash Street are being, reintegrated. Does it justify operating a building that large and that old and, at the, probably current expenses that, it is. I think it's like $5 million a year to operate. Is that something that can be carried out in the Dartmouth facility? As far as the Ash Street Jail being a historical building, me personally, just as someone who lives in the community, I'm fully okay with moving on from the history of the Ash Street Jail and starting something new there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just thought it would be a great idea. I mean, a lot of communities.
No, I understand. It's just a matter of, I think it's an old building, so it would just be a matter of how many inmates are using this as a reintegration center. Is it actually habitable for that, right? Because one of the arguments for Ash Street is that it's dated and that people shouldn't live there, or people shouldn't spend a significant amount of time there because that building isn't really, up to code.
Well, you just said it yourself. People wouldn't be spending a long period of time there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a reintegration center.
Okay.
For people who are leaving within a couple of months, to work privately with staff members who are able to help them get back out there.
Right.
I'm not saying, it's Club Med, because it is.
Right. I understand.
That's jail for you. You don't want to spend any more time there, then you want to reintegrate yourself back into community.
Sure.
To do things right.
Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Well, you have a good night, sir.
You as well. 508-996-0500. Listen, I see some calls on the line. I got to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus. 508-996-0500 is how you can get on the program. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening.
Marcus, how are you? Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Hey, Barry. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you as well.
Hey, where is my favorite harp? Is he okay? Everything good?
Yeah. He can't make a McCarthy work on St. Patrick's Day, so he'll be back Monday.
What?
So you can't make a McCarthy work on St. Patrick's Day, so he'll be back Monday.
Thank you for that. I went to an Irish Catholic college, and I didn't even think of that. I just wanted to wish him well and favorite holiday. So, Marcus, real quick, a couple of things. So this week end is the half marathon, right?
Yeah, Sunday.
And a couple of your brothers are running in it, right?
Yeah. Dummies.
Okay. Where are we going to be to pick up the pieces of those old guys?
Yeah. Oh, he's been training, right? He's been working at it.
Yep, they have. But it's nothing that crossing that finish line is not going to be like when you guys were at another Irish Catholic school.
Bishop Ian. Yeah.
When you guys won that was amazing, Marcus.
The Shamrocks. They were the Shamrocks too. Yeah, we stuffed them at the 1 yard line. That's right.
You didn't have your starting running back, and you guys killed it, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of you. Hey, so real quick, again, moving forward, I had a couple of calls from friends that have their sons that are on this revocation for the windmill projects. They're doing training. I don't know if you know about this.
Is it through NAUI or?
Marcus, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know.
Okay.
But it's kind of positive. Listen, I'm an old guy, but if this trend is going and there's all this training and revocation for the fishermen and whatnot come in to take these classes to get jobs, which is important to the community for the potential windmills that are going to go out there. I don't know your listening audience, but I got a couple of calls this week from friends that have sons that are going to take these classes and asked to stay at my house. So kind of like going to be when you were living here and staying there, kind of cool. But
right.
Do you know anything about this, Marcus?
No, I know that they're starting up that National Offshore Wind Institute that's being run by BCC. That's going to be over by the port. But in terms of other job training stuff, I'm not super familiar with that, honestly.
So maybe you could look into it, because I'm a knee-jerk reaction kind of guy, and you can talk all day long about things. I'm a statistics guy, but until something happens, I kind of don't believe it. But for me to get phone calls to put, some of my friends' sons up in my house, which gladly would do, it means that this is actually taking off to the point that these I don't want to say fishermen, I don't want to get into a category. Having had 3 kids go to Mass Maritime, there's many categories of offshore in mariners. But Marcus, I mean, I was like, you were the first guy I thought of to call, because this is actually happening. I've heard nothing about it on the radio. And if anybody would be able to research his son, it's clearly you. And I think it's a positive thing where this is actually happening, no?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Right, it's one of the big pitches for the industry is that type of development. I think, right? It's like one of the big draws. Actually, the governor was saying the other day when we were over at the Marine Commerce Terminal that, like, hey, this is this is why I'm so invested in it. It's permanent job opportunities down here in the South Coast and across the Commonwealth, stuff like that. So it's great.
So, and I'm a fisherman. I'm not rod. I'm rod and reel, but we put a lot of heritage. But I believe that maybe you guys can jettison this into a positive thing. We need a lot of positive things here, Marcus. And if the pockets are deep and that this is really happening, I believe it's happening. I got people staying at my house that are going to have textbooks and studying.
It's really cool.
I'm not help them, but I think maybe you guys could expand on that and make it let everybody in the community know that this is really happening.
Yeah, I've had Vineyard Wind on a few times. The former Ward 4 counselor Dana Ribeiro, she works for them now. She's come on to talk about some of the job fairs they have, but I've been wanting to get more offshore wind companies on here just to talk about some of like what's happening in the industry and all that. So yeah, absolutely. And I got the mayor on next week actually, so maybe I can ask him about that as well.
So you know what else would be cool, Marcus, is if I could put some of these kids in touch with you, and maybe they could come on and tell this story about how they're going to be revocated. I mean, that's a big thing.
That's pretty cool.
Old dog, new tricks.
I like it.
All right. Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day, brother.
You too. Thanks. 508-996-0500 is how you can join me. Also taking your messages on the WBSM app chat. It is St. Patrick's Day. I don't really do much on St. Patrick's Day. I used to go to the Newport Parade. That was always the Saturday before, though. I prefer, so I've been to the Boston Parade, I've been to the Newport Parade. I have definitely prefer the Newport Parade to the Boston Parade. And maybe it's just because it's smaller and more manageable. I don't go to either now. I don't really care to, but when I wore younger man's clothes, so to speak, I used to like going to the Newport Parade. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. Not to say there isn't older people that enjoy that parade, and they should. It's not something I enjoy anymore. But now the entirety of my St. Patrick's Day celebration is going to the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick Gala. That's pretty much it. After that, I'm good. But I hope you're all having a great St. Patrick's Day. And if you want to join in on the fun, you can at 508-996-0500. You can also shoot me a message on the WBSM app chat. This is South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow, and we're here on 1420 and 99.5 WBSM. We're on the app, too. Got an app. Download it. I guess take a break.
New Bedford's news talk station, 1420 WBS
300.
Have your voice heard right now on South Coast Tonight. Call 508-996-0500 or send an app chat message on the WBSM app. Now, back to Chris and Marcus.
Hey, welcome back. Let's go to the phones. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Mark.
What's up?
Nothing much. I was, as I mentioned in the wind farm thing there, I was driving by there in the South End.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've been by there lately. Have you been by there lately?
Well, yeah, I was at the Marine Commerce Terminal, which, is over by the South End or close to it. Sure.
Okay, so you guys were down there when the mayor was talking the other day?
Yeah, I was there. Yep.
You see the size of those cranes that get down there?
The trains?
Crane.
Oh, the cranes? Yeah, they're massive because the parts are going to be pretty massive. Yeah.
I've never seen a crane that big before.
Yeah.
I've seen skyscrapers going up in a lot of different places. I've never seen cranes that big before.
And I think the governor had said at the event in about exactly 1 month from today, those cranes are going to start carrying those wind turbine parts out there. So you're going to see it's going to be some massive.
They're going to put the cranes on ships? No, not that big one I saw.
No, they're not going to put them on ships. They're going to be, I guess, bringing the parts out, maybe putting the parts on the ships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're going to make those any bigger. I saw one part coming into town on a truck.
Yeah.
It was probably about 100 feet long or so.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it looks like they have room that they can make those things even taller if they wanted to.
Yeah, it's.
I'd be interested to know more about those cranes, like where are they made, where do they come from?
Yeah, well, I can get someone on from Vineyard Wind actually to talk more about that because I think as this starts happening, which again I think the governor said in about a month, I'm definitely interested in learning more about that as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep. Yeah, no, they're big. I was there. I was looking at them in that work yard. It's quite the thing. And as those parts start going out, I guess they're going to start doing that building. April 17th, I believe, was the announcement. I think it's Patriots Day, which is a holiday only for. So Patriots Day, it's obviously the day of the Boston Marathon, but it's only a holiday for. I know Massachusetts, obviously, but I think Wisconsin. I think Patriots Day is a holiday. It's definitely a holiday for Massachusetts, but I think there's one other state, and I think it's Wisconsin. And it's to, basically it's to commemorate the Lexington and Concord, right? The Battle of Lexington and Concord, the shot heard around the world. This, the official start of the Revolutionary War, to the extent that there was an official start date. So, yeah, but they said They said Patriots Day is when they're going to start doing the construction on that stuff. So I'm interested in that as well, actually. And so hopefully we'll get someone on from Vineyard Wind or another wind company. I've been talking to some people about getting these wind companies on. Especially with some of the drama that's gone on with, Avangrid and, you got State Senator Roderick saying he wants to cancel their business because they're, if they back out of contracts. It's really, we'll flesh that all out probably next week sometime. We have Mayor Mitchell on, but I definitely am interested in that as well. But Patriots Day is supposed to be, I think, the start of the construction on that. I think that was part of Healy's announcements that she was making, along with the fact that they're investing 1% of the $55 billion budget into the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and they're tripling the budget of the Massachusetts God, wow. I should know this, and I totally forgot the name. Clean Energy Center. Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. That's it. Sorry. I got to take a break. It's a good time to take a break. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Marcus, 508-996-0500. If you want to call me in the 8 or 9 o'clock hour, I'm here with you till 10 o'clock, so give me a buzz. Got a lot of local stuff to talk about, some stuff going on across the state. Just, open phone lines, whatever you want to discuss. I'm cool with it. I'm totally cool with it. So just let me know. 508-996-0500. That's how you can join me, or we'll take your messages on the WBSM app chat, whichever you're good with, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable with. Don't worry. any which way. You want a message? You want to call? We'll take it. All right. I'll talk to you in the 8 o'clock hour. Stay tuned.